Hello, welcome to another edition of the Writer's Craft here on Sparks 1524. I'm Nathaniel Miller. Recently had a conversation with a friend of mine I'll call Carl, just to protect his privacy. He's a leather worker, does some great stuff, vests, belts, all that kind of cool stuff. He's looking to write a couple of novels, and he's got some really cool ideas. But we were sitting in his backyard around the fire pit, and he asked me about what I'm writing, the accidental detective series, science fiction projects I got some ideas for, things like that. And as I was telling him about the world I've built, he asked me, how do you world build? How do you actually do it? Because he's got some really good ideas that, if he can develop, are going to be a really unique synthesis of a lot of different genres and different tropes that I think are going to create a very unique story. But getting over the hurdle of doing it is what's bogging him down. And I got bogged down trying to answer his question because it occurred to me I've never thought about world building. I do not believe in false modesty. And yes, there are plenty of people who are going to tell you I don't believe in any modesty. I actually believe in a lot of modesty. I am so humble and modest, I make myself sick. I am the humblest person I know. Jokes aside, I don't believe in false modesty. I'm a damn good writer. That's why I was so successful in the Navy for 20 years as a photojournalist and a journalist. That's why I was as successful as an instructor teaching writing for the DoD for 7 years. But just because you're good at something doesn't mean you always realize how you do it. When Carl asked me about world building, it brought me up short because I've never thought about it. I have a gift for this. I've got a very powerful, hyperactive brain. I have been world building the world I'm writing in since I was literally 6 years old, right after we saw Star Wars in 1977, in a drive-in, by the way. My brother and I started, our imagination just lit up. A couple years later is when he called me into his bedroom and told me, go build a Lego battleship, a Lego spaceship, so we can have space fights like we saw in Star Trek and Star Wars and things. And that was the moment all my story writing started. But the foundation was laid by seeing Star Wars in this magnificent universe George Lucas had created. I have such a powerful mind that all of this takes place for me very naturally. Just like that. Ideas come, they get slotted into place, the world develops, but not everybody has that gift. We all have different gifts that give us different strengths in different areas, even among writers. I have a great gift for world building. I have a great gift for writing pithy, funny, whimsical dialogue. My weakness, though, is that I can get bogged down in unnecessary details that do nothing but drag the story to a stop. I can get caught up in too much exposition that makes people feel like they're reading the Encyclopedia Britannica and not an adventure novel. So we all have different skills, strengths, weaknesses, and tendencies. But none of us can write none of us can write a fictional story unless we build the world. Now, to build the world of The Accidental Detective, book 1 and book 2. Book 3 actually comes out this April. It will be called And So It Begins. I had 2 tracks going. I had the track of Michael McCraney, who was the original predecessor to the modern Isaac Shepard, and Michael McCraney was dreamed up in 1985. And I had the science fiction world that I'd been developing since playing those Lego games with my brother all the way back in 1979, 1980. When I was in late high school, right around 89, 90, I decided that it would be kind of cool to bring those two worlds together and have at that time, my character who became Isaac Shepard was called Michael Shepard. The name was evolving. Link up with my science fiction protagonist and become a distant, indirect ancestor. This was long before the MCU actually proved that such a shared universe is a bankable idea. Back then, I didn't know if it could work, but it was fun to play with. But again, when I stopped to try and answer Carl's question, I had no idea how I actually do it because it just happens. For me, world building is all up here. Very rarely do I write anything down other than the book, because when I do, I discovered a long time ago, if I try and write a narrative summary, I get bogged down in that. That narrative summary becomes more in-depth than the actual book I want to write. For me, that is not the right way to work. It took me over 20 years and my Navy career to begin to realize that when I need to catalog back information, I need to create either an outline form or a timeline form, but keep it very simple. Very rarely should I actually sit down and write paragraphs of narrative summary, because otherwise I get bogged down. So for me, cataloging my backstory on paper so I have a reference works out best as an outline or a timeline, or a little of both, with occasionally a narrative summary. For the Accidental Detective series, for the first 6 books, which do make a long arc for the first 6 books, I have a master plan, which is largely an outline. That works for me. You might be, well, likely you are different because you're a unique person. And the great thing about world building, although it can seem daunting when you sit down to actually do it, this is a great part about writing because this is uniquely yours. J.K. Rowling created an amazing fictional world of the Harry Potter universe. She drew inspiration from mythology, Greek mythology, British mythology, all over the world. J.R.R. Tolkien set out to create a modern mythos with the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit, which he did. Gene Roddenberry, George Lucas, these people have got, heck, even Stan Lee. These people have created these modern myths because they built a world that was unique to them. So now it's your turn and my turn to create worlds. But how do you do it if you don't have a brain that works like mine? It can seem very daunting, but it doesn't have to be. This Writer's Craft series will be broken up into 4 parts, and clearly you're watching part 1. Part 2 is going to go into developing your characters' biographies and backstories. Part 3 will be developing and working on the outer world, the universe that they operate in. Part 4 will finish this series by dealing with the inevitable retcons that come to your backstory as you develop the story. So, class, your homework today is to take one aspect. One aspect is I hold up 2 fingers. Take one aspect of whatever story you're working on or thinking about. Just one. It could be a character biography. It could be the political, social, or cultural, world that they live in. It could be one aspect of the political world. It could be one scientific invention or development or fact that is going to impact the story. But pick one part of your backstory that is going to that's going to impact the story you're working on right now. Just one. And start dreaming up on it, thinking about it. Get a notebook and start doodling. Doodle on the computer, whatever works for you. Figure out this next week or 2, what works best for you. Is it writing an actual narrative summary, paragraph by paragraph? That works for some people. Are you more like me, where maybe an outline with bullet points or a timeline, or both works best for you? Maybe you need to use a voice recorder and just record it by voice, and that's what works. The first step to building a world is to find out what method of recording the information you dream up works for you. So until then, pick up that pen and start let your imagination go. Just unleash your imagination. This is your world. It can follow whatever rules you want. So unleash that imagination. Let your pen go and start scribing out the magnificent borders of this amazing creation that is uniquely yours and you're going to share with the world. Thanks for listening. If you're curious about this, I've also got a written column which is linked below. Please feel free to check it out. If you like this video, please feel free to like and share it. I would ask for your subscription because Sparks 24 does more than just the Writer's Craft. I go into veterans issues, just travel logs, sea stories, all kinds of things. And I'd appreciate your time if you think it's worthwhile. Until then, though, take that pen out, pull out a notebook or something, and start figuring out what works for you. And when I see you again, until I see you again, go and do some great things.